Memory is a mirage. To the desert, it is air. To our minds, it is water. Then it isn't. It's an illusion. Something we are convinced of. It may be considered a lie, but this lie is a reality. And if our reality is a lie, if everyone has their own reality, then isn't a lie for everyone else the truth for you?
You have.
Ice cubes are very watery and they hit your face.
Our past. Nostalgia gives us a sense of wanting what once was. But we have that version of ourselves in us. Therefore, when we want something back, what do we really want? Do I want the past in my present?
Okay, but that's
Or
the
do I
worst
want that
thing is
past version of myself?
that you go to the toilet and you say icicles in your bathroom wall.
When I think about myself as a child, I think about freedom. I also think about innocence. The ignorance is bliss trope,
How come you're breaking out over?
Because I'm like fire.
but a lack
and
of information.
something.
Is that really bliss? Our brain likes to hold on to the most comforting emotions and tries to forget the trauma that may be blocked, suppressed, or buried deep until we bring it back, until we remember. People talk about healing your inner child as a source of therapy.
You're gonna have to pick it up because it's gonna turn into water all over my floor.
That's a great idea.
When I think about the happy, joyous kid I was, I think, I want to go back. I yearn to go back. I wish I could go back. But when I say this, I'm usually in a turmoil within the present. I'm anxious, I'm scared, I'm in fear of the unknown, of what's to come, of the future, because the comfort of the past is that it's the past. It's known. So is that longing to enter my child self?
Whoopsie.
The longing for the comfort of the known?
And here we are at Portville, which is Newport.
The lack of information resulting in comfort?
Of course not the cat, because this is my promenade.
I was happy, joyous, carefree, because I had no fear of the unknown. I think about when I could adapt to the world without resistance. Am I labeling an emotion as positive because of innocence?
Intelligent animals that jump out of woods and scare you.
Well, I think that's enough about icicles for today.
Am I wanting to leave my present discomfort because ignorance is bliss? Or in that moment, I felt totally present?
My precious darling. Oh, I just love you, my darling.
What if our soul is what invites us to experience the love we carry? What if our soul is just a love that exists in us already? But when we learn about the world, we learn how to cope. We learn how to use worries, anxieties, fear, and hate to suffocate our soul.
I'm an old. I don't know.
You might have to put those in the sink.
Sinks are very delicate colors. They are
What happens when this protective armor protects us from our fears while simultaneously suffocating our souls? What is a silenced soul? Rules? Following a voice that's not yours? Following what was taught?
Annika, that doesn't make sense.
okay.
A suffocated soul is one who listens to everyone else but oneself.
Did you get me?
A suffocated soul is someone who has been hurt, who tries to find love in the expectations of the outside world, instead of listening to the inside.
Making me look like a ding dong.
When we neglect our inner self, we
dance.
neglect our soul, and what if our soul is the kid we were, the kid we are? When I want to go back to who I was, I do it as if I'm grieving the loss of this past version of myself. I forget to think about how I am that same person, that same soul. The core, past the layers, holds love. The most natural part of your spirit, your life, the most vulnerable part is your soul. It's what a capitalist, competitive, inhuman society tries to rip out of you, but they can't reach in there themselves. Instead, they throw stuff on top, and we hold on to things. They try to mute us. The year I graduated high school in 2020 was the year I lived listening to an eating disorder.
How are you going to celebrate this moment in history?
The world told me who to be in a colonial, capitalist country, so I conformed in search for love.
Even though she
But
doesn't
the
know
love that
where
social media promised me was not love. Instead, it was fear, shame, and guilt. I was hypnotized to believe and tell myself the words of not good enough.
events
Try harder.
that this pandemic has brought
Do more.
is all
And this was the year I
These
entered the most
ways
abusive
we have
relationship with
found
myself.
to overcome, to achieve more than what could have been.
I was manipulated. I kept trying to change and search for love and search for satisfaction, but it was fake. There was nothing real in making myself a commodity.
So the mail came
It is
today.
when we know what is put on top of our soul when we can know how to reclaim it.
Even though she doesn't know where we are.
To know our soul is to try to hear it underneath that pile of dirty clothes.
Annika.
I let the clothes pile up, my soul stopped speaking. I was silenced by trying to conform to the standards as a woman, as a person of color, as a human who just wanted to be alive instead of working to survive. I was in survival mode. Suffocated. I grew silent. I sat in silence. I lived in silence. I was surviving. It was a slow suicide. As I wished, longed, hoped for love I didn't feel, my sense of identity was muted by a mental illness. I was underneath the pile, and with that last breath, it felt like I punched a hole and reached out for help. I put my hand out, and people grabbed onto it. Slowly, they started removing the clothes one by one, digging for me.
Okay, that's recording.
I couldn't do it myself. Because I was underneath.
This just happened. Hi, Annika. You're probably thinking about me.
I was never made to do it by myself. Not in a world that hates, shames, and teaches us to isolate.
Because people are powerful, and we have the power to change the world.
I left the
Different
house that my eating disorder lived in. I left the
is
province I grew up in. I
exciting.
changed my name. I found new friends. I stripped a
This year will be
shell.
different.
I needed to leave the comfort of my mental illness, the comfort of hating myself,
It's
the
Annika.
comfort of the constant chase, the comfort of staying stagnant. I was so uncomfortable in the world that I needed to feel comfortable in it. So I changed for it, not for my
We have
soul.
the power to change the world.
All I knew was to keep listening to the thoughts. Until I started doing the most uncomfortable thing I could do. I decided to stop listening to them. I decided to start healing. Discomfort is a feeling we will experience when we heal.
We're in an evolution.
It's easiest to get a hit of dopamine when reminiscing, when we are at our lowest point, when we
I
feel
hope the world
like we can't do this
still
alone.
remembers that we are all in this together, not being able.
In anxiety and difficulty, we want to go back to that dancing, singing, carefree self when there wasn't as much weight on us.
Annika in a fancy chair.
Different
But that's not what we really want.
is
Because if we did go back, we wouldn't have
This year
our
will be different,
experiences
but that's what
or the
makes it
people who
exciting,
have
because
helped us. We wouldn't have the ability to know who we aren't, to know who we are. But we would have the innocence, the ignorance, the oblivious. But this is not what we want.
to just be grateful for what we
Knowing your soul is liberation.
It's up to us to decide.
Because it's freedom when we know what to resist. When we know what wants to take control. When we know
She
to
is.
let go.
What are you doing,
and
Annika?
listen to our soul. Reclaiming yourself is the most powerful thing you can do. When I reminisce, I want to go back. When I yearn, wish, and numb the present, I also numb my soul. I bury it. Because knowing oneself is knowing who we aren't. We must go through being buried to come back alive. We must resuscitate ourselves, and in resuscitating, we come back more powerful, more able, more alive, more compassionate, more in love with the world. It is our soul that tells us when we need to love, and maybe reminiscing is not wanting to go back, but wanting the love we have within us. To choose your soul over others' control is to free yourself. To bring your past into the present is your soul asking for freedom. I was helped. I broke through the pile of expectations, guilt, and anxiety that the world has told me to hoard, to hold on to. To know who you aren't, you must remember the past. Remember the soul you carry. Because the past connects us to our future. And I must reconnect to both my past and my future to remember who I am. To recognize my soul.
What are you doing?
I breathe in my past to breathe in my present, and all of a sudden I'm breathing again. Because I let my soul speak.
Annika, that doesn't make sense.
Okay.
I recollect my soul to find out what future me needs. And all of a sudden, I can enter the unknown. Change. Because I let my soul breathe. No matter what happens, how hard it gets, I will always have my soul, my comfort, my home, myself.
Okay, I haven't felt this a lot.
What if when our soul agrees to something, we let go? We are free. We change. And when we change, we let the truth become alive. We let reality be subjective. We let ourselves be reshaped by others, but first we let our soul speak. What speaks before language? What makes us feel free in the constraints of a body? Our soul stays consistent. And it is loudest when it is free.
Going out of our comfort zone or trying something that scares us, like that's when we create ourselves.